One. Waiting for it to say we're live. Okay. So currently, I actually would like both of you to check out the stream on the YouTube channel right now because I'm about to reveal what is the acting artwork as I slightly tweak it and fix it and get a model made for Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
So just tell me when you two have it loaded.
Kind of in the midst of a fight at the moment, so I'm not exactly going to be able to check the stream.
Okay.
Currently, all I see is the channel logo.
It should be changing in a few seconds. I just switched the scene over.
Okay.
And this also gives me an idea of what the delay is. Why would I stream a 360 video? Who the hell does that?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, okay, the logo just changed.
Hmm.
I dug at it, I found a Switch model because I'm like, you know what, whenever we do something like this, Sean always ends up on his Switch.
You know what the funny thing is? I am on my Switch right now.
Ha!
That he is.
Also, you know what's even funnier? The first game on that Switch that you found?
Yeah.
What?
Breath of the Wild.
It's Breath of the Wild.
Yay!
If you look in the... Because I don't have a model for Dylan, there's just a toaster on the desk.
It works.
It works.
It
for the
just
meme.
works.
Dude.
It works for the meme.
But,
It just works.
It just works.
I'm trying to remember the meme someone had. It was like, Team Fortress. No, it was Fortnite deletes itself for a couple hours. Rainbow Six shuts itself down for a few hours. Anthem is a failure. It was all this other stuff. Team Fortress 2 community. Giorno's theme intensifies. Seriously, despite Valve giving that community nothing to work with, they have been amazing.
In terms of world building?
Well, actually, yes, they have built some actually really interesting maps and actual worlds.
Mm-hmm. The comics are pretty cool.
Oh, the comics are great from my understanding.
I've read them. They are.
I know that the Doctor outwitted the Devil in terms of contracts.
He actually did.
But now, welcome everyone to the Writer's Corner. This is a series we try to do every month. A keyword try. Involving myself, Shaderock, with, if you two would like to introduce yourselves.
PK Kitsune.
And the expert gamer.
What we do with this is...
Oh.
Oh, you're French! Oh, I am French! Wait, what? But no, I felt wrong saying that because I'm English. But no, but no, the whole point of this is we talk about sort of key elements in terms of writing through examples of a good example and a bad example. Though
No, this is purely opinion based on our
true
own
with the
opinions.
examples. Though
Yeah.
with
These are our
some
experiences based on consumers,
Yeah.
not creators,
Though-
at least thus far.
though with some we can actually lie on it is just a most is subjective, but with some very rare circumstances you can just settle on this is a bad example.
Few and far between, but some.
Yeah, no. It's kind of like how it's able to say Suicide Squad is a bad movie.
Not often that you get those, but they do exist.
It's very rare you get them in high end, but it's also onto. We've done a couple ones on the Twitch channel, but the issue is just never really got around to editing them, and also we had issues where Twitch was cutting out randomly, so the video got cut and I lost footage.
So
We
back
moved
to basics.
Yeah, we moved here to YouTube for two reasons above all. One, it feels like this would be more at home on YouTube, well, with the fact that we can put this into the film and animation category.
Mm-hmm.
The other reason is, I'll say, I like a key part of the new YouTube stream system. That is the end and start stream button on YouTube itself. So say my internet cuts out for a second, it won't stop the footage. It'll just pick up right when we restart. You can actually see this during the charity streams and a couple other videos I've streamed.
Convenient.
It's a nice little feature, and it's something I kind of like. But today's topic is going to be on the discussion of world building. And to clarify what we mean by world building, it is the process of sort of making the world feel real and fleshed out. It's kind of a hard thing to define, but it's sort of like how you could get immersed into a world because you have so much detail making it feel real. And I was talking about it with you two beforehand about my bad examples, and if that's okay with you two, can I start the bad?
Go right ahead.
Fire away, Chief.
The bad example, and anyone who wants to jump on this and please hear me out completely. The bad example I was going to give is Skyrim, in particular with regards to magic. And I will not take credit for this. Another person who was talking about magic in video games did point this out to me, though it was something that did bug me in Skyrim. And that is, magic is not an uncommon thing in the world of Elder Scrolls. It's not like, say, Dragon Age, where it's this incredibly rare thing and they're ostracized for it. Dragon Age is more akin to Warhammer. But in Skyrim, everyone could do it just by reading a book. Hell, you have random bandits who are not that intelligent on the street using magic. And some pretty high level ones at that.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but it is kind of a really common thing.
Yeah. And then on top of it, you are known across the land. How every guard who sees you goes, "Hail Dragonborn." They know you're Dragonborn. They know your deeds. They know you've been in if you've gone to, they know you've been in the Winterhold Academy. They know you're a spellcaster or whatever equipment you're using. So, why is it when they throw you in prison, they take away everything? You cannot use any ability that is not magic based. You're in prison, gen pop, and yet you can still use your spells, your shouts, your racial traits, all of it.
I think that they would actually have something put in as a precaution.
From my understanding, in Morrowind, they did. When you were locked up in Morrowind, you were given handcuffs that would drain your magic.
You were what? Sorry, you're starting to cut out.
I'm sorry. You were given handcuffs in Morrowind that would drain your magic.
That's actually really smart.
And in Skyrim, there's a poison that drains magic. Why aren't they force-feeding the prisoners this?
That also is a good point.
It's
Yeah,
not...
you know what?
It
What
would
the
be
fuck?
fair to the players.
Yeah, it sort of just breaks the world. This is supposed to be a prison, and yet you can have basically a literal fireball in your hand, and if it's just something that does sort of ruin the immersion.
Clearly, clearly they think that you'll be nice and not start throwing fireballs at the guards.
Clearly,
Look, just because he's in prison for incinerating a family, why should we think he's going to incinerate other people?
but then, sort of to counter this with a good example. Grant, I think this is also just an issue with world building in Bethesda games in general. Like Bethesda, with world building, does a lot of telling instead of showing. An example is anything. How do you learn about anything in a Bethesda game? You read the notes.
Oh my god, it's not even just that. Like, in some versions, it's okay. But in other versions, it's just
In
talking,
Fallout,
talking,
you know. Here's the thing.
talking.
In Fallout, I just want to scream because of that monochromatic text. Green on
Like,
green is not nice.
Like, alright, look. I'll give them credit for one thing they did in Skyrim. Whenever you do one of those claw quests, and this is hardly a spoiler, if anything, anyone who hears this, I'm doing you a favor and saving you a trip to the wikis.
The answer's on the claw.
Yeah, exactly. You actually have to look at the rare, priceless treasure that's in your inventory. I like that. That's clever. It incentivizes you and tells you, without directly saying so, hey, look at the shit you get. And I like that.
But then you have, as a parallel, the burned a burned building. How do you find out what happened here? Read 20 notes or talk to everyone in the town. I think it's more notorious in Fallout than Skyrim. Especially Fallout 4.
I haven't played too much of Fallout. Well, then again, I've played Fallout 4 and Skyrim, so I'm not exactly super well versed on either franchise, but having played one more Elder Scrolls game than I have Fallout game, I will say this much. They seemed to have better grips. No, wait, what am I talking about? I've played 2 Fallout games and 2 Elder Scrolls games. Having played New Vegas and Morrowind...
New Vegas can't fall into this one because Obsidian actually knows what the hell they're doing.
It's still a Fallout game.
Yes, but it's still a Fallout game, but this is a Fallout game by a completely different studio with a completely different team. Where that's like comparing the first 3 Spyro games to the Spyro New Beginnings trilogy.
Alright, I suppose that's fair. All I'll say is this much. Morrowind is to New Vegas. In a way, it's almost a perfect depiction of how the generations ended up working out.
Yeah.
Because Morrowind and New Vegas both knew what they were doing and did them pretty well. Like, I definitely believed Morrowind was a huge, mysterious continent, and that New Vegas was this run-down desert wasteland. Then I end up believing that Fallout 4 was a place divided by factions and very much in the midst of a multi-faction war. Then, it's just, it doesn't, despite the fact that the circumstances are much bigger in Fallout 4, I believe that there's tensions in New Vegas a lot more than I believe that there's tension in Fallout 4, despite the stakes being much bigger.
If I may give you sort of a thing to clarify how this might help you in your head. In New Vegas, in Fallout 4, all the factions have bases, but like their borders are never really clearly defined where you leave territories.
Yeah.
Where in New Vegas, you can tell when you leave out of NCR territory and enter the Legion.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Like
it's not just like there's
no tunnel.
It's more than just saying, oh, here's the line, you've crossed it. It's suddenly, when you leave the NCR, it's a lot less militarily controlled through modern means, and you start seeing tents on the side of the road. You start seeing wandering people who look like they're Spartan fanboys.
The world feels alive. And then an example I will give, this was sort of also going to act as my good example. Kind of more of a more recent game is Death Stranding. There will be no spoilers in this conversation because there was no spoilers in how this was. If you ever seen the world footage of Death Stranding when he's just walking around?
I have not.
It's always just a clear open plain. There is an event that goes on. It's called the Timefall. There is no documentation in the game explaining what the Timefall does. Everything you learn about the Timefall, you learn from seeing, interacting with the world. One of the first things you see is a drop of water, because the Timefall is the rain. A drop of rain hits your head, and your hair goes from, like, his normal black color to gray in an instant.
Oh, shit.
Timefall accelerates time. So that's why, for example, any item you have that's exposed will start to rust. Vehicles will rust if it starts raining. Rain is your worst enemy.
Well, shit.
They never tell you what this is. At one point, someone gets stuck under a vehicle in the Timefall, and you just see them hyperage.
Holy shit.
But knowing this, imagine the effect of accelerated aging on everything in the environment. All the trees break down, they turn, and everything is all rocky and covered in mold. And it's all accelerated. It never states this, but you can interpret it just based on the information you see from the world. And this is something that a couple games don't do. It's show versus tell.
I guess another aspect of world building that kind of gets thrown by the wayside, at least in role-playing games, is probably your objective markers. because whenever you get a quest in role-playing games these days,
You get the
you don't
objective.
really need to read what you need to do. It's just, oh, here's the marker, go here.
May I give you a little counter to actually show you that there is one game that actually is developing a new system that does this?
Well, I was gonna provide an example.
You give yours
Anyway.
and I'll give mine.
All right, is it the Outer Worlds?
No, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh, all right. Well, without spoiling too much, one of the quests that you end up getting in the Outer Worlds pretty early on in the game can't be solved until, well, I guess whenever you get around to it unknowingly. But because you have limited coordinates and thus limited landing spaces in Outer Worlds, you can't exactly go certain places until you happen across the information you need to get there. So, in order to get a certain item, you need to unlock the coordinates to a specific locale.
Oh, you're
And-
talking like really early. I know which one you're talking about.
And the thing is, it doesn't show you where you need to go in order to get them. So I basically just ended up saying to myself, organically, okay, I'm going to look around. I'm going to find people who probably broker information or might know some shit, and I'll find out where to go. And after enough time,
Actually,
I happened
Let him
across,
I
and
know.
and after enough time, just organically through my travels as a space trotting, laser gun firing, monster slaying badass, I did eventually come across the information I needed. And yeah, I jumped right on that opportunity. It was great. It felt like, just made sense.
I want
It was
to.
organic. And
Right.
it felt real.
I want to make sure we're talking about the same one. Are you talking about like the planet you get, like the coordinates you're told to get immediately after getting your ship?
No, it's something else. I don't want to spoil it because I feel like if I say what it's for, people will just look it up.
Just people are gonna do it anyway. If you're afraid of them just looking it up, they'll look it up.
Well, suffice to
Just
say,
say
I've
the.
left it at
I would say just say the planet name.
I was just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
But so the larger point isn't what you're looking for. The larger point is a good role playing game can make you more interested in the world with an open-ended or half-finished quest
They
that
don't-
doesn't directly tell you where to go.
And
And
they-
Outer Worlds did a great job of that.
Yeah, no, it's even not even like, oh, they don't. It's not even like the thing of not needing to tell you everything in terms of quests and everything. What I was referring to is mostly how the world feels alive. You can interpret more, like they don't never need to flat out tell you, oh, the
No,
world
yeah.
is like this.
No, yeah, I
an
know
example
that,
I was
but-
going to give though with the quest marker thing is, and I'll be
But-
honest, I get bugged by games with quest markers where it has no explanation about why it exists.
Well, the reason why I understand that, but the reason why I felt like bringing it up was because mechanics-wise, some of the mechanics of the game can make you feel less
Oh yeah.
immersed. And that is one of in just putting quest markers everywhere and not incentivizing the player to actually venture out in a fun way into the world to figure more things out and find the end of this quest themselves. Doing something like that is actually a very imperative part of the role-playing process,
Yeah.
at least certain bits of it.
I
And
know-
so I gotta give Outer Worlds props amongst all the other accolades and awards people are showering it with for that little nugget they managed to pull off pretty well, in my opinion.
I know when I was playing Outer Worlds, anytime I went to a new planet, and it was even during the main story, I'd get it, and then I'd just walk around and see what was going on the planet. Like,
Right?
it was never just, oh, I'm here. Like, I would always first follow the quest marker to find the town, just so I had a place to resupply.
Yeah.
But
that's
then
always a
I would
good
go
idea.
there and I'd walk around and see what like, in particular, I think, frig, what planet is it?
Describe the
It's like,
what was on it.
I'm trying to remember. It's where the like the one group that really wants to break away from all the companies. Not the first planet.
Oh,
It-
the Iconoclasts.
Yes, their planet.
That's on Planet Monarch.
Yes. Fuck. I restarted because I wanted to change some stuff. So
Mhm.
and I just have not had time to get back to it. But no, oh yeah, the one I was gonna say that does HUDs and stuff in games very well is throughout its journey, Assassin's Creed. Because there was always the explanation of why does this all exist? It's because the Animus is providing you information. But during Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they introduced a new mechanic system for how if you want to play. And it has to do with the map itself. There is one where you could turn off all map icons visible on the field, including quest objectives. You would need to find them yourself based on the hints they give you.
Really?
Yeah. And it can get really annoying because some of the hints are very vague. Other ones are kind of simple. But granted, I don't know if it was just me because I love the ancient Greek culture of Odyssey. I just sort of walked around and just saw what was going on no matter what. So I just left it on because it was just a little bit more tedious.
I mean, hey, a beautiful game is a beautiful game.
Oh, no, it is gorgeous. It's also like, I honestly, between Odyssey and Origins, I prefer Odyssey just because I like Greece over Egypt.
Mhm.
Well, they've all got interesting facets to them, and I suppose if you do it well enough.
Every culture has the people that enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like
To each
Adam,
their own.
Adam, like, for example, Adam really likes Black Flag, or I don't, because I feel Black Flag's a good pirate game, but I hate it as an Assassin's game.
You know what? That's actually entirely reasonable, because in the limited experience that I've had playing that game, I thought, this doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed.
If
It feels like a fucking plundering game, and I'd love to play this in a plundering mood, but not really in an Assassin's Creed mood.
it should have been its own spin-off title. It should not have been mainline Assassin's Creed.
Same problem, I guess, as the would-be Quantum Shock. Oh well.
Sean, you want to give your examples?
In terms of bad, I can't exactly have a good bad example because I just like experiencing game worlds in general.
True, and and a lot of the ones at least I've experienced with, I've played with you, and or you've told me about, all have really good world building.
Yeah.
Like Final Fantasy VI has fantastic world building.
Oh, Final Fantasy VI.
What
Final
about
Fantasy V? Final Fantasy V has some really. See, as hokey as Final Fantasy V can be at times, with how it's very tongue in cheek, it still has some decent world building. Especially when you consider the fact that there's two separate worlds and they both splice into each other.
Even World of Final Fantasy has some good world building.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, but Sean, wouldn't you say that Into the Gungeon actually has some pretty good world building?
Oh my god!
For a roguelike?
For a roguelike, they put so much detail into explaining why everything's there.
They really do. And when they're not being jokey joke about it, it's still really great. Like
Even some of the more jokey weapons make some sense.
yeah,
Because people would probably try that. Be it as a dare or as a joke, or it's literally all that they have to use.
like to find out certain things about the Gungeon does make some semblance of sense. Why so many different ones are there in the first place, why they have such punny names, or some of them being a bit more serious. Yeah, it's not just a reflection of the world, but of the creators themselves. Like the fucking trash gun. Yeah, it might have been made out of desperation or a dare, but it's still a damn good AoE poison gun.
That's just
Yeah.
making me think of like the instant grand. Like, I'm sure everyone here remembers the era of Ratchet and Clank.
Mhm.
Oh, yes, I do,
Yeah,
with
no,
incredible fondness.
Dude, you'd really like Into the Gungeon.
Well, I'll be honest,
just
like,
for some of the insanity that it has.
I kind of want to talk about a game that also has good world building that's like really tongue in cheek, but I don't. It's a game I feel doesn't get as much love and credit as it deserves.
That is.
Sunset Overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I haven't heard much about Sunset
I-
Overdrive in recent years.
I saw Nick playing it for a stream.
It's so fun.
It's very tongue in cheek.
Here's the thing, and a lot of people, because it's actually on Steam now, and a lot of the reviews were, if you didn't like Saints Row 4, you'll love this.
All right.
Because a lot of people were
didn't-
saying it's a competitor to Saints Row, and it very is. It's very much is. It's an open world game. Movement system is fantastic, but
Well, what if you actually liked Saints Row 4?
oh, you'll still
didn't
love it. It's colorful. It's like everything
It-
is colorful. It has
It's not designed to purely be a comparison.
It's designed to
Yeah,
be its own
interesting.
fun thing.
To explain though, the company that made it is Insomniac Games,
Oh,
Yeah.
a company after mine own heart.
which and you have all the insane weapons and everything that they're known for. And I see you there, Connor. It's not called the Apocalypse; it's called the Awesome Apocalypse. And as you start interacting with the characters in the world, you realize everyone who is still in the city with you is all batshit insane.
To an extent, if you stay in any place that's known for violence for too long, you have to be slightly insane.
It's only been like I like to say like 4 weeks.
Slightly
So-
insane.
Still, a form of apocalypse has
Oh,
happened.
yeah. Basically, what happens is there's this drink called Overcharge. When you drink it, it turns you into it. Basically, some chemicals in it cause a reaction, and you create the OD.
The OD?
That's what they call them because they OD'd on Overcharge,
Oh, okay.
and it basically causes zombie mutations. And the entire game has a good humor about it. Granted, that the issues, and I'll say this now, this can kind of be seen as basically breaking world building. There's a constant thing where your character brings up shit that they're not supposed to know. Like, you have a voice in your head telling you how to acting as a tutorial.
Of course.
During one of the conversations, I'm trying to, yeah, you walk up to a guy and he's like, "Why should we listen to you?" Well, and you pull up your weapon wheel,
Well.
and everyone can see your weapon wheel.
Ain't it funny how it happens?
It's a very meta game, but it's also the world itself feels alive. The characters feel like they belong because everyone's just insane. It's colorful. You also have a teddy bear, a gun that shoots teddy bears strapped with TNT.
Tiny Tina approves this.
It's called the TN Teddy. I love it.
Tiny Tina approves this message.
Seriously, it was like I did mention it was like $12 on Steam like last weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
I don't know if it's still on sale.
Probably not.
I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't grab it when I had the chance, but oh well.
Yeah.
Live and learn.
But like another actually, you know what? Talk about Sunset Overdrive because because Microsoft released 3 games on the Steam besides the Master Chief Collection.
Mm-hmm.
One was Quantum Break, which I don't know anything about that game, so I can't talk about it. But the other was a game called Recore. Recore was one I was very interested in, and I was following its development and waiting for it. Recore is the combat and gameplay is by the guys who did Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
Oh, hell
The
yes.
world and writing is done by Infune for Mega Man.
Inafune.
Hell yeah.
And they work together beautifully. Like, the designs of the robots are great. It never flat out tells you what is going on. You know there are almost no humans left on this planet. You are an engineer on this desert planet. You figure out everything by interacting with the world. And listening to the enemies and doing all this other stuff. It never tells you. It shows you what happened.
Yes.
I always
Me
prefer
loves.
a game. I always prefer a game that shows.
It doesn't tell.
Which kind of brings me to a bad example I want to talk about because I told you guys a couple times, Sword and Shield. If you read the trainer cards for the gym leaders, you see this interesting story for them, like all this stuff they do. You never see it.
Yeah.
Well, dip.
And I get with two of the gym leaders because they swap out depending on your game. You can't really write too much for them because they'll swap between the 2 games. But it makes the character feel more hollow.
Yeah.
Like, you can ask people, name them one interesting thing about a gym leader that isn't,
The 8th gym leader.
yeah, that isn't the 8th gym leader, or the 7th.
Ha! Joke's on you. I haven't played either of those games, so I don't know anything about anyone. Check and mate, Mr. Shade.
Like, look, I don't, There's a lot of things that go on in that game that makes me question who was in charge of the world, but we're not going into that whole thing.
Yeah.
But no,
If we want to get into politics of gaming, that'll be
no,
another
that's not
time.
even a politics of gaming. That's just there's some questionable decisions.
If we want to get into the questionable decisions of gaming, that's a story for another time.
No. That would be it's also the fact that that's something people will develop their own opinion on. But you know what? Actually, speak of showing rather than telling, and this is the one I was going to bring up. Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes.
Because of the way the Dark Souls canon works is, so okay, I know this. I have to clarify because for people to understand how the world building Dark Souls works, they also need to understand the core concept of how Dark Souls was made. Dark Souls was always made with the idea of it is a story to be told around a bonfire to your friends.
Okay, that is actually really, really cool.
So that's why very few bits of lore are fully canon. It's all
everything is your own canon.
Yeah, but there are some elements that are still canon, like for example the story of Gwyn and how he burnt his knights alive. And I know, Sean, please don't start singing it.
You said it.
I know.
And I'm very tempted.
There's a song called
But
Lord
I'm
Vassal.
gonna-
It's really good. I do recommend giving it a listen to. But no, in particular, I'm gonna stick actually with Dark Souls 1 here. During the run through Dark Souls 1, the only thing you know for certain is you figure out slightly what happened to Gwyn as you play the game. But only things you know is that there were 4 Grand Souls. There was Gwyn, the Witch Izalith, and Nito, Lord of the Undead. And then the Furtive Pygmy. And then you learn about the Undead Curse. In terms of everything else, it's seeing how this world and everything fell. It's all seen through the world itself, looking at everything as you observe the environment. Hell, one of the biggest mysteries, and this is something I'm okay talking about, because how long has it been since Dark Souls 3 came out?
How long has it been since Dark Souls 1 came out?
Oh, at least it's a 360.
Mm-hmm.
But during the 3 Dark Souls games, there's this statue. It's connected to the Warriors of Sunlight Coven, so the Sun Bros.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, yes, the Sun Bros.
It's this broken statue with what appears to be a spear. The thing is, the top of the spear is too long to be a traditional spear, same with its base, it's too wide. It is, now that we've seen character models, some have realized that it is the Nameless King from Dark Souls 3.
Huh. Hot damn.
The thing is about the Nameless King is it's believed this also is based on the fact that any statue related to him has always been destroyed. There were multiple children of Gwyn. There was Gwendolyn. I cannot remember the one's name for the life of me. And then there's the one who did something and had his names removed from the annals of history.
Damn. How much do you have to fuck up to get removed from history?
Something he sided with the dragons.
Oh. Well, shit.
Because
the
Nameless King takes residence in Dragon's Peak, like a temple devoted to dragons. So, basically what happens is the Warrior of Sunlight is believed to be connected to him, being the fact his statue is in all 3 games.
Well, shit.
But it's like, it's always in like weird spots. In no, it's only in one weird spot, and that's in Dark Souls 2. But Dark Souls 2 is a weird situation in the whole mess of things. But in Dark Souls 1 and 3, it's in Dark Souls 1, it's in the chapel area. In Dark Souls 3, it's inside Lothric Castle. So
yeah, the Souls team has always been really good at making it. They're good at making you think about the world.
Yeah.
In a very profound sense. They leave you just enough vague clues to be able to piece together a lot brilliantly. And yeah,
What?
It really prompts people to come back and keep thinking about it.
You know what I would?
You know what? That's arguably one of the best things you can do for a franchise, while also still. It's one of the few strategies that works out really well on a business and creative level.
Actually, speaking of and speaking of the Souls team, I don't know how many members of the Souls team are involved in this, but there's a Souls-like game, and Sean knows it because we talk about character creator enough. There's a Souls-like game built by Team God Eater called Code Vein.
Code Vein, which people always just keep calling it Anime Dark Souls.
I get
right.
I mean, they're right in terms of gameplay, but also not at the same time. It's a lot more fluid than Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I have dibs on the next conversation topic
for
this.
Go, but
well, I mean, the next game
but no,
we discuss.
I wanted to talk about this just because I think, Sean, you've seen it when I've streamed it before. The way the world is built through Code Vein, you see it through visuals. Like, you see how it's a society that's just destroyed and collapsed as they've been trapped in this bubble for so long. But then there's also these things, they're called memory vestibules. Basically, they're the leftover remnants of a dead wraith, like you.
Ugh.
They're basically crystallized shards of anger.
Oh, cool.
It's not like an actual thing, it's like crystallized. But anyone else who touches them will be corrupted and turned into a lost, so they'll turn into a monster. Your character is different, though, and can purify them and then have them be used to rebuild blood codes, which are basically your class system for the game.
Oh.
You can switch your class on the fly.
Oh, sweet.
It's actually really cool.
Fantasy references for the win.
But as you pick them up, though, you go through memories. Like, you go through the different memory related to the character who this blood echo is related to.
Oh, so kind of like a black box of memories.
Yeah, for example...
You're going on a vision quest.
Yeah, the best example I can give is the Prometheus quest. Oh, Prometheus shard line is related to one of your allies named Lewis. Every time you pick it up, you go through his memories. And there are even some that aren't even for the characters who travel with you, but are connected to them. Like, there's one connected to the Prometheus vestige line. I think it's the Hunter line, where it's like they will actually tell you about the people who these memories are related to.
Oh, damn.
And it's something that does make
because they knew them.
Yeah, it makes the world and the creatures are fighting actually feel alive. Granted, it is stated very early on that once you are lost, there's no going back. There's no coming back. Granted, you can also tell, like, this is sort of spoiler, not spoiler. Anyone who played God Eater 3 kind of figured out what was going on right from the start. There's these thorns scattered throughout the entire map. They don't fit with anything else going on in the world. They are like this out-of-place object.
However,
they referred to them as the Thorns of Judgment, and they first appeared in God Eater 3, and even in God Eater 3, they were really out of place, and no one could figure out what the fuck they were.
Yep.
Here, it's all the Code Vein team's fault.
Yep.
Basically,
Code Vein exists in the same world.
Yeah.
Oh.
Basically, the events of Code Vein, okay, I say they didn't exist till God Eater 3, they did exist, but they were never this massive.
They were starting to show up.
Yeah, well, no, they showed up during the apocalypse when the God Eater apocalypse started. Like, they were how the origami breached into the world. But, Dylan, you wanted to give your example?
Oh, boy. I want to give an example of simultaneously good and bad world building.
Oh, this is going to be...
And I highly doubt either of you has been able to live through the last 5 years without hearing this franchise named, especially considering you're friends with me.
Yeah. All right, let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay. I can give you that.
All right. Look, no one's denying. Look, here's the thing. Scott Cawthon, as a writer, There's no other way to describe it. The man's a mad genius. I mean, when this all started, his world building, if we isolate it to just the first game, his world building it's second to none, because it's probably some of the most organic you'll ever find. And you can't deny, regardless of what you think of the franchise now, that he started something. He started what is arguably an incredibly new and all its own genre in not just horror, but also in games. Aside from the whole let the horror come to you thing, and the fear comes from your own nerves versus your own logical management of resources, but more than that, it comes from the fact that you actually have to, aside from watching out for danger, look out and explore this world from your one seat to try and figure out more.
Learn as much as you can to find the truth.
Yeah. And the best part of that is when it ends up being something that can scare you even more the more you find out about it, but you've got to keep looking because it's written in such a way and it's explored in such a way that is inherently, intriguing. It makes you want to find more. Arguably, one of the best examples of this would be, well, aside from the classic newspaper clip exchanging in FNAF 1, the only boss fight Scott's ever written into the game thus far, if you don't include FNAF World.
FNAF World, I think, is the outlier, kind of like the Dark Souls 2 to all the other situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, FNAF World is just a very different game, too.
Mm-hmm. But, by that boss fight, I'm referring to the alternate ending of Sister Location, where, you're back to a classic FNAF format, and you're trying to just...
Yes, Ennard.
Yeah, and more than that, you gotta rely on not just your visuals, but you gotta rely on listening to hear when it's getting closer, because after 4 a.m., shit gets intense. He goes from, it's just like Bonnie and Chica, to, oh shit, how did he get there so fast? Close.
Markiplier wants to know your location.
Yeah. and it's compounded not just from the fact that Ennard's fucking on your trail, but also the fact that halfway through, well, rather the whole time, it's not just Ennard using Baby's voice talking about why she doesn't understand you, why you'd betray her, but then the changing to the voice of what is presumably the protagonist's, well, that's the thing, we don't know. Little sister, maybe. But
it's heavily implied to be the little sister.
Yeah, hence the title of Sister Location, but that's, god damn it, that is a part of the genius of Scott's writing, is that he has scarcely ever confirmed what is canon and what isn't. He's made a living out of fucking with the people that try to. Remember the time that Game Theory did a stream, and during the stream, aside from the crashes that were happening, Scott's website was updating regularly, minute by minute? It's... I guess you could say it's an example of great world building and terrible world building, because there's so much there. There's tons of pieces, and the beautiful thing about these pieces is that they can fit to not just one set of other pieces.
Yeah.
You can piece them together so well in so many different ways and make so many different pictures, and
I think the other issue, if I might say,
none of them have been confirmed.
I think the issue with FNAF, I can't say it's because none of it can be confirmed because, well, we just complimented Dark Souls and that's got the same thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the issue is, unlike, say, Dark Souls, where Dark Souls kind of has clearer pictures, the issue is with FNAF, I don't know how much of it's got planned out, because it gets kind of messy at some regards.
It gets muddled.
Yes.
And I don't think MatPat helped the situation at all.
He didn't, to a degree. I feel like Scott's...
No,
I feel like all the way up to...
I must apologize real quick. I should not put that part on MatPat. It wasn't MatPat himself, I think, was the problem. I think it was more so some of his fans, because they get a little overzealous.
Yeah, that's entirely reasonable. But
it's not always just MatPat's fault when he makes a mistake. It's his fans for overblowing a lot of the theories.
Yeah, and
believing his theories to be the only truth.
The word of God!
In the words, here's the thing. I know he never expected... Scott made FNAF when he was at the end of his creative rope. So
He never
in terms-
expected this.
Yeah,
Never expected it to go this far.
Kind of like
Yeah.
Kingdom Mora with Kingdom Hearts.
And he's at
Well-
least trying to.
Yeah. if
keep-
I had to venture a guess as to what Cawthon was trying to do, it would be that his first one was meant to be isolated to just one game. The second one was when he looked at what he had written and realized he could poke some holes in his own writing and expand the world a bit more. And when he realized how much of a huge success the first one was, the second one was just a gateway to more. The third one, I don't know if it was meant to be his earliest attempt at a conclusion, but it was an okay shot. The fourth one might have been an attempt at concluding it, but Sister Location was definitely, in my opinion, the last time he tried to end the series. It seemed like, well, the last time he tried to end the series and just be like, I'm going to move on to other things. After that, he made World, he made Pizzeria Simulator, which was...
Pizzeria Simulator was really the attempt to end
Yeah.
it.
And I think...
And he didn't let it end is the problem.
I think it's not just that. It's a matter of, I think something did end at that point in terms of world building. Something did change, in my opinion. And you've seen it if you've seen what he's done with Help Wanted and Special Delivery, and even what he seems to be doing with the books that are going to be releasing this year.
They're starting to feel like they're their own thing out. Which if I may venture a guess, I think the original ones, I think he's just starting from scratch at this point.
It seems like at this point, the first 6 games are always going to have some connection to each other. He may never confirm whether they do or not. And from this point onward, I honestly, you can say whatever you want about MatPat. He did manage to do one thing. He managed to make the perfect comparison to what FNAF is today. FNAF is to kids today what Goosebumps was to us when we were kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's each story could have a connection now. Well, at least from this point onward, anyway. It seems like that's what he's going with. They all take place in the same universe. It's morbid. It's weird. It can be dry humor at some times. It's definitely a bit more gruesome and morbid than it was when we were kids. But apparently, kids these days can stomach that stuff at a lot younger of an age. I knew like 8-year-olds who were playing FNAF 2 on their tablets a few years ago.
I think it's also just they're more desensitized. Like, let's be honest, games when we were kids were never designed with that in mind.
No, cartoons when we were kids were. Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh,
scared the frick out of me
yeah, no,
sometimes.
Courage was like
Courage the Cowardly Dog is really just a dog in a normal in a very popular theory of Courage is that it's all just in Courage's head.
Yeah. All right, we're getting a bit off track, but
yeah.
I guess my major point to be said here is I don't know if Scott was trying to create something that would bring people back after every single iteration begging for more, or if he just didn't really know how to write a cohesive world with some clever threads here and there that leave you questioning things. I don't know if he did this on purpose or if he tripped into amazing success. But at the end of the day, the world building it's a scattered masterpiece, in my opinion. It's hard to make it all one perfect picture, but you can't deny that the few bits that come together are fascinating to look at.
Yeah. And I do hope for his future endeavors, like where he gets it all, where he does one where it's like all interconnected and he doesn't have to worry about the baggage of the FNAF lore. I hope for his future endeavors and see him improve.
I hope we get to see the movie one of these days, because that is going to be juicy as
hell. So,
hell.
actually, funny thing, okay, so kind of switching, kind of a little bit off topic of the whole thing, but, so, if I remember correctly, Warner Brothers was originally doing the movie.
And then they switched to Blumhouse.
They didn't switch, Blumhouse bought it.
Oh.
So
Okay.
they had the script, they had everything else already set up for it, but Blumhouse did not buy the script or anything. So they still
Okay.
had the script. So it's believed that it was repurposed into a Banana Splits movie.
That one.
Yeah, that's why it feels so much more like Five Nights at Freddy's movie than it does a Banana Split movie.
Huh.
Great, if you want to see some
I'll be
good
damned.
practical effects, that's the movie.
You know, honestly, if that's really what happened and that's why we haven't been hearing back for a while on the film, then that may be for the better, considering the film was announced during the sister location hype and it was supposed to be about the first few games. So
The film was announced way before Sister Location. The film was announced, if I remember correctly, around Five Nights at Freddy's 3.
really?
Yeah.
3? That long
Yeah.
ago?
The movie
Yeah.
has been in a weird limbo.
Yeah. Well, if that's what happened to it, it may actually be for the
It-
better
it might,
because
yeah, it might
they
just
would
be.
have had to redirect way too many resources to put it
Yeah.
towards stuff that's more relevant
I
now.
think it's just stuck in development hell forever.
Oh well. Well, any shifting gears to a less gargantuan example. Anybody got any examples of good or bad world
Hey,
building?
how about
they could
Legend
throw
of
out?
Zelda?
Oh boy!
Oh God. Okay, no, that's very much of one of we have to handle it game by game. I would say Breath of the Wild does it very well.
You had to say
Oh.
that right as I was looking at my Hyrule Historia, didn't you?
No, see, here's the thing, right? One of my most loved parts about the Legend of Zelda games is that none of them takes place in the same exact. Almost none of them take place in the same exact Hyrule.
As much as true.
Which
Hyrule may look very similar, but that's more because of the fact that it's called.
Yeah.
For one thing, and one thing alone, it's called The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. the whole thing of it always being a different
Yeah,
world
that
both works in its favor and works against it at the same time, if that makes sense.
I guess a bit.
Because it works as each one if they were all their own when they're their own standalone titles, but it also makes the world feel smaller. Because the world,
Way.
if I may say, for example, with Majora's Mask being a sequel to Ocarina of Time, it added a new part of the world to that area,
Right.
an entire new country, and that's the
A
thing.
new country that may or may not,
Not
even
exist.
exist.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. And I've said this before, there were more sequel Zelda games where like, hey, we take this and we go into the territories surrounding Hyrule, expand out, grow
Yeah,
the world a
and
little
those-
bit more.
And those games exist.
Yeah, but
I
they
just-
exist, but they're always in the spin-off titles and never really given the mainline
There's
online.
no spin-off. There's almost no spin-off titles. You gotta
Well,
realize.
True,
I
yeah,
just thought of something, guys.
no. Yeah,
And that was when Sean put the emphasis on the words "the legend."
yeah,
of
no,
Zelda.
they,
Yes.
And
yeah, no, we know
that's,
that.
That's something that's been brought up.
That's something that's
widely
been
by the
brought up.
community.
Yeah,
what?
The fact that it's different versions of
Link.
it. The fact that it's different tales.
Yeah.
About the story of fighting Ganon, the story of,
And I'll say
and that's why the worlds look so different.
the appearance of the world isn't
Because
really
it's different tellings.
I'll
from
be
different
honest.
People.
the appearance of the world has never been my issue with Zelda. It's just like in terms of the overarching stuff. Like if you have like a 200-year gap between the two games, I don't really give a shit if the characters act alike or stuff like that. But it's more so let's use the story of the Master Sword itself, of the sword itself. That was something great that Skyward Sword gave us. It gave us the
Oh, gosh.
origin of
Yeah.
the blade.
Skyward Sword is so good for the canon
Yeah.
of The Legend of Zelda.
Which, look, I say what you might or with a canon with Zelda, your core elements, like for example, the reincarnation cycle, the Triforce, and the sword, should have a layer of canon to them because they are your key elements.
I suppose that's true, and that is one of the few games,
Yeah.
well, the only game, I think, where you actually collect the three pieces
Yeah.
of the Triforce.
Um,
Where it's not this larger-than-life thing that's hidden off somewhere you're never going to gain
if I may,
access.
if I may give an example of games that actually are very interconnected to canon, if I remember correctly, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Minish Cap is directly connected to Four Swords, correct? Because Minish Cap is the forging of the Four Sword.
the reforging.
Well,
of the
reforging. It's broken, then it's reforged, but the Minish Cap timeline is very much interconnected to each
Very
other.
interconnected, because Four Swords, the real the antagonist of Four Swords Adventure is Vati.
Yep.
Who was the antagonist of Minish Cap.
Minish Cap remaster when?
Honestly, Four Swords remaster when the Switch is perfect for it.
Switch is perfect for Four Sword. Both. Like,
Both
in
are
all
good.
honesty, now here's the thing with the Minish Cap remaster. It's not so much on Nintendo. That's more so on Capcom.
Yeah.
Alright.
I'll
Well,
say.
And I think to a degree Four Swords. Not sure.
Well, in regards to the world building that comes from Minish Cap, say whatever you want about the forging of the Four Sword and stuff like that, but there is one thing that Minish Cap gave us that
The explanation as to why rupees come from the grass.
the explanation as to why everything comes from the grass. It's the
Yes.
it's the little Picori
Yeah.
just putting stuff in the grass for adventurers to find.
And that's the thing.
And if I may, something that was supposed to be in Breath of the Wild,
They were supposed to be.
Picori, they were supposed to be in it.
Really?
Yeah,
Now, because of
Why
course,
weren't
they get.
but because of how weird it was gonna be, considering, you know,
The nature.
considering the theme of Breath of the Wild, they didn't have a good place to put the Picori.
Well, they
Fair.
might have in the sequel.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. But this also explains one thing about Breath of the Wild that many people were at first confused about. You don't get rupees from cutting the grass
Yeah.
in Breath of the Wild.
Never.
Holy shit, you don't?
Yeah.
You haven't noticed that.
You haven't noticed that.
It's been a really long time since I've played Breath of the Wild.
You'll find bugs, frogs, and the like, but you will never
Yeah,
find.
that's why I
rupees.
just set
Holy
fire.
shit,
Yeah,
right.
that's why I just set fire to the grass. Mind you, I'm also a pyromaniac, so.
Yes, you are. You're a raging pyromaniac.
Purge and holy fire, brother. Get the flavor. Connor's right there. As I say, purge. Connor reacted. He's also
Get the
playing
flavor.
Raw speeds, but every time Raw is said, it speeds up by 5%. Connor, you disappoint me.
He hasn't done that enough.
True, but and that's the thing though with. And I'll be honest, that sort of thing that I kind of believe with the Zelda series. Each individual game has its own world built very well. It feels alive, and you have the characters who make it feel alive. The issue is if you try to put in a grand scheme of a series,
It kind of falls
it
apart.
falls apart. It's better to look at their world building as individual titles than as a full series.
Yes.
I always wondered if maybe the Legend of Zelda series was just multiple different renditions of the same story.
Yeah, that's what one of the.
That was one of the theories that was going around, but then Skyward Sword kind of blows that all out.
I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't
It doesn't-
completely refute it.
Yeah, it could just be. I mean, look. I mean, for example, look at Link to the Past and Link Between Worlds,
And like, here's the thing.
where that's actually two
versions.
different takes of the same.
Story.
Yeah, and honestly, like that I saw was kind of like Link Between Worlds could have just been done as a sequel title. It doesn't feel like it's needed to be listed as a
here's the thing.
reinterpretation.
Here's the thing about Link Between Worlds. At the end, Ganon's not the one that hijacks the plot.
Yeah, that's true. It's less about Ganon and more about fixing a world.
Yeah, and Ganon gets hijacked by somebody else.
Who knew?
You thought Ganon was gonna be the villain, but it was me.
Hey, Yuga!
Also, someone just liked the stream,
Yay! Thank you for the like.
but
Thank you for the like and things of the like.
like there's some really good things. Like I will be honest, there are some games that work better as individual titles than when you put it together as a series.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I may say because I was trying to avoid mentioning just because I didn't want to go on the full blown thing, the world building of the Mega Man franchise.
All right.
Here we go.
Okay, I'm gonna
Alright.
be very simple here. From the base games of the original, excluding 11.
Okay.
It does build the journey very well of the original Mega Man. You have the you have the building of the world of they're reliant on robots, and when they rebel because of Wily or reprogramming or whatever is the current case, you get the idea that this world is doomed because everything they do is based on these robots. It's definitely more so in the comics. If you read the Archie comics for Mega Man,
Oh, I have.
they have been granted. If I may say one thing that kind of breaks world building, if you know something, if you look in the first issue when Dr. Light is giving his speech revealing the original Robot Masters, in the crowd is Neji from Mega Man 04.
Is who?
Neji's a reporter who kind of is helping humans get out of Neo Arcadia in 04, which is in the far future.
Yeah.
God damn.
She's just there.
In the future.
Yeah, which I actually give me a second. I'm gonna be showing it on stream, but I'm also gonna be posting it in our group chat. I do have the channel's old DeviantArt still. That does exist. I don't touch it that much anymore, but yeah, it's a thing. Let me see.
DeviantArt is DeviantArt.
Oh no, I used it to sometimes show display of models. I used to use it to share some of my progress on sprites. I don't touch it anymore, but I also did some memes. Here we go.
Memes are always appreciated.
If you,
Yay.
Don't let your dreams be memes.
don't let your dreams be cream. Wait, what?
Wait a minute.
What's
Don't let your memes be memes.
What's if you? Okay.
All right, I'll be right back. I gotta go check on my dog.
Yeah,
She's barking at something. BRB.
Oh, frig, no, that's an HTML. No, cancel. But yeah, now this is the picture. She's right there. I just showed it on stream. I'm going to be copying and putting it onto the thing. Let's see here, change background.
No, we can see all of this happening in stream.
I didn't know if Dylan had the stream up. Yeah.
Yeah, but is she a human?
Yeah, no, Neji is human.
Neige?
They make a very big deal that she's a human. Because, the only reason that the humans left with her in Neo Arcadia were because they were all human. They did not trust Reploids. They didn't trust machines in general, whether it be Mechanoloid or Reploid after the whole... In their defense, Neo Arcadia was formed after the Elf Wars, when that whole fiasco started, which was previous... Because remember, since X was woken up, there was the Maverick Wars, then the Elf Wars, then the, freaking Rebellion. And then on top of it all at the end, there was Wheel with freaking Ragnarok. The humans in that world kind of got screwed over. A lot. Though, actually, a little bit of world building in 04, when you go into their... Do you know why Area Zero is called that? Sean.
Mm-hmm.
For those unaware, in 04, the first... Well, not the first area. The first mission they send you on after you get your hub unlocked is in a location called Area Zero.
Yep.
It is stated by, if I remember correctly, I think it's Zero or Seal mentioned that the reason vegetation, which is almost extinct at this point, has returned to this area is because the environmental core of a space colony is there.
A specific space colony.
It's called Area Zero because this is the colony Zero blew up, landed.
Yep.
And I'm just like, oh, I did this.
Did I fuck up or did I succeed?
It depends on which ending you count as canon to X5.
Yeah.
But also that's the thing, even with the games that weren't meant to be part of the main timeline, like X6 to 8, they never feel like they contradict anything to the Zero franchise. Yeah, no, it just makes us think that Axel never got mentioned again because the poor boy. But no, Andrew, if we want to talk about annoying, let's talk about the fact that despite all the evidence in the world itself and also direct quotes from the team that Legends is part of the main timeline, no one counts it as main timeline.
No one remembers it to be main time, which is weird.
Poor boy stuck on the moon.
He's still stuck on that fucking moon.
Oh my god, that's never gonna go away.
I have returned.
Oh yeah,
Mega Man Volnut is still stuck on the moon. Let's start a petition right now. Get this boy off the moon.
you know what?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Joking, I'm
You know what?
joking.
By the way, April 20th, will mark 20 years since he's been stuck on the moon.
God fucking damn.
Maybe that's why NASA doesn't want to go back.
So, okay, everyone, on April 20th,
Takes place in the future.
everyone on April 20th, spam to Capcom, get him off the moon.
I'm sure that'll reach 5 people.
I'll actually, there's a Mega Man Discord. I actually might contact them about joining on that. But no, Dylan, when you were gone, I was talking about there's an area in 04 called Area 0, where the reason they call it that is because vegetation had returned to that area, which was believed to just be gone because between the wars, like pretty much all plant life died.
Right.
It's returning
The
because
thing is, somebody crashed a space colony in Area Zero.
you've played X. You haven't played X5, have you?
I've only completed X1 and I've done a lot of X2.
During a big plot point in the beginning of X5 is there's a space colony threatening to drop, and Zero is heavily involved. Like X5 is very much Zero's game.
It's supposed to be it was the original intended ending.
Yeah, because
of the X series.
after X5 we had 01.
Got it.
But then we had X6 as a thing.
And that kind of screwed some of.
Granted, well, it messed up
Plans
some
up.
stuff. I think they also recovered because by 03 when they were doing Omega and they were explaining the Elf Wars, I think it acts as a good recovery from the tomfuckery X6 did.
Yeah.
It's bullfuckery, sir, and I will thank you to call it such.
Basically, X5 ended with a beautiful transition of Zero going into a recovery state to be reactivated into 01. The issue is when X6 became a thing that was rendered null and void.
Because Zero shows up.
So what they did was in 02 they start talking about the L4, and 03 you flat see it, and it stated Zero was knocked out of commission during the war.
Oh.
So
much for world building.
it also gives that's an example of like Connor. Even when you have something that's going to hurt your world build, like X6 hurts the transition between the two games.
Or Mega Man 11 hurts the previous 10.
Mega Man 11 hurts the entire franchise. I'm trying to avoid talking about that one because Mega Man 11 has the same issue as X6, but to a different extent.
It just disregards all previous canon.
No. X6 still regards existing canon. The thing is with X6 is that at least the original team was still in the building and they worked on it and they were able to put some input.
I think one of my favorite parts about X6 that shows that it does in fact acknowledge the previous canon is the fact that Metal Shark Player literally summons dead Mavericks.
You've actually fought one.
attacks.
If I remember correctly, he summoned Storm Eagle.
That's when you use the.
That's when you use it.
Charge
Yeah, it's
shot
been a while.
in Ultimate Armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you drop Storm Eagle. Though
Yeah,
also
you summon Storm Eagle to rain down from the sky. It's
Dylan,
Oh,
by the
that
way,
is awesome.
when you eventually get to X6, tell me. It is the only game in the entire franchise I will tell you use the Ultimate Armor.
Okay.
It is.
There's a good reason for this.
It is because here's the thing: X6 is hard, and like
And
the entire X
The
franchise.
thing about the Ultimate Armor, you need to cheat.
Yeah, X6, it's the only way to get as a code, but a lot of people have said, because the rest of the X franchise is hard, but 6 is bullshit.
Okay, noted.
Yeah, no, but no, in Zero, they do this great world building of, like, they tell you why everything is the way it is, but in particular, it's Area Zero is where it's built perfectly, because they don't know why it's called Area Zero anymore.
Well, shit.
Because it had been so long. X and Zero had faded into... Well, X not so much, but Zero had faded into
Legends.
Because he had disappeared for so many years since the war. They all knew X existed because...
Zero faded to legend, huh? Well, you know what that means. Da, 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 da.
But the reason why everyone remembers X is because he actually led humanity after the war.
Woohoo.
Yeah. He went on to become.
And then you go even further to ZX. They don't remember the Maverick Hunters at all.
The what?
Like,
oh, I'm sorry. You said Maverick Hunters. For some reason, you're gonna get a kick out of this. I thought you said Magic Hookers.
I'm not talking about Slaanesh.
It's always got to go back to Slaanesh.
It always does. But no, during ZX, with the exception of one person, no one remembers the Maverick Hunters even existing.
Oh, so
and that's for the better. And actually, that actually brings us to another little bit of good world building. There's this girl. She runs the Guardians in ZX. She's a Reploid. It is never clearly stated in the game who she is. But during your quest when you are joining the Guardians, you're given a token to prove you pass it. It's this little, like, robotic stuffed cat.
Aww.
It looks exactly like
one a little girl is carrying around the base in Zero. And
series.
she flat out says, like, she was given it by her sister. And based on the dialogue she talks and you reveal, this is the same girl from Zero.
This is the same.
She met Zero. She's the only one who has a memory of Zero and knows what the MacGuffins of that game are called, the biometals. She knows what they are.
Yeah. Oh, dip.
Because CL, her sister figure was the one that designed them.
And the biometals are... You only figure out when they start talking and you listen to their mannerisms, you figure out what they are.
They're either heavily based off of, or they are.
It's implied it's the Cyber Elves based on how Model Z reacts.
Cyber Elves are essentially...
Souls
of Reploids.
So... Of the biometals, there are Model X, Z, H, F, L, and P. Technically Model O, but that's a completely different ballpark. And same with Model A.
Model O is a unique.
Model O is a unique case. But each of them acts, if you listen to their mannerisms, they all act like the characters. For example, Model X and Z are very familiar with each other.
Yeah.
Like
Gee, I wonder why that could be.
Especially because in one of them, Z does a heroic sacrifice, so it's like, oh, this is Zero.
This really is Zero.
What am I fighting for?
Oh god, X4, bad. Did you know the new actor for Zero redubbed that?
Oh, how could they not revisit that classic scene?
No, he didn't redub it. He just did it himself.
Yeah, it wasn't.
What am I dubbing for? It's getting old.
It unfortunately did not get added to
the collection, which I'm sad about. But no, but like,
it really should have been added to the collection.
It should have been, but like, there's world building done. This is more so world building through the sense of characters, with the biometals being the basically reincarnations of Zero, X, and the 4 warriors of the Zero franchise.
Yay!
And it's actually really well done, especially when you think about the sequel game, ZX Advent. You have 4 people basically hijacking the 4 warrior biometals.
Yeah.
And during it, they're like, anyone who knew the characters immediately went, these characters and their actions would not get away with anything if the 4 Guardians were in control. It is never stated, but you can figure out that the big bad of that one has suppressed the biometals.
Yeah. They're using their power without their permission.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because the conditions to use a biometal is you need to have the potential to use it. So there's only a select few who have it.
There's a select
Genetic code.
Sequence you need to have.
But it also boils down to you as a personality. So, for example, Zero went to someone who was very noble and willing to put their lives on the line to protect people. Same with X.
Right. And arguably the original Mega.
Yeah, X. Well, X is the reincarnation of Mega Man. If we're getting into formalities,
Right.
He's
Right,
the
it's just,
reformatting.
Yeah.
of
But
Mega Man.
Model X,
Even without the X Factor,
yeah,
Rock himself.
that turns
wanted
it that the X Factor is a comic thing.
Well, either way.
Yeah, but the Model X, when he chooses Vent/L, depending on who you choose to play as,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't choose you. Like, he's actually just floating there for a bit until your character goes to basically sacrifice themselves. They have no weapons. They throw themselves in front of a giant serpent mechanaloid, trying to protect them with no weapons and no way of fighting this massive beast.
Gutsy.
And that's how you get
Model
X.
trust.
But Model Z's was someone who was very noble.
A noble warrior.
Even with some of their personalities, like their actions are what would contradict with the Warriors, but their personalities kind of fit. Model L's is a person who just really loves combat. H's is like very stoic.
Wait, L? You mean F?
No, F's is hot-headed, but L's is like she likes combat, but she's also flirtatious in it, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
It's been a while since I played Zero, so I'm kind of going off of memory.
Mm.
I'm waiting for that collection in February.
I mean, there's one thing that we all remember about Mega Man Zero.
That he came to plot. Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to not mention that. But they do. Yeah, and I'll be honest. Like, one I would love to talk about world building, and I would mostly love for it to come back. Battle Network.
Yeah, you did really like Battle Network from what I heard you talk about.
Me and Tristan love it, but
I have a soft spot for Battle Network as well.
I remember the huge craze around it when I was a kid.
If you play
and how it was like, oh, get these battle chips. Go to your store and get these cool things. It's a video game. It's a collectathon, and I never got into it.
If
my
you
parents
play,
didn't let me, but,
yeah.
you know.
If you play from 1 to Battle Network 6, you see, and in particular even to its sequel series Star Force, you see the evolution of technology between the games.
You mean the devolution? Going back to classic radio waves.
Well, but no, you see the evolution of that technology. I know, but even you joke, but like you even see the evolution of the technology in it. Best way I can explain is in Star Force 1, the only way you can access the EM wave change to turn to Mega Man is you need these wave holes. When you use them, you are put onto the road, and then you can only access the roads. In Star Force 2, you go to the EM wave holes, you wave change, you can now exist on the ground and use ramps to reach the wave roads. In 3, the technology has advanced so far, you can EM wave change anywhere.
That's cool.
And it shows the technology changing and evolving.
It's also showing how reality and the EM wave
world are starting to become
blend.
Yeah.
Especially after the 2 incidents before 3.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a planet try to destroy ours. We had a ancient civilization try to wipe out everything, and then we had a comet that was literally going to destroy the planet. So yeah, but in Battle Network,
I know we're talking about world building, but there's one thing that I miss from old school kids franchises, and that was letting kids fight our battles on a global scale. What happened to that?
Call of Duty happened.
Oh please.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
It wasn't just Call of Duty. Let's be honest.
But like with Battle Network and Star Force, like Star Force, Geo was the only one who could do it because until Star Force 3, no, because to explain this is sort of world building. They explain how EM wave change works very early in the franchise. You need a certain resonance. It's basically the sound of frequency your body emits. It needs to resonate with another EM being. Now, there's another one they called if I remember correctly, in the dubs, they refer to it as the loneliness wave. If it exists, an EM being can basically hijack your body.
Ew. Very Venom.
Yeah, though it also, depending on them, they can still discuss it. For example, Geo and Sonya admit this, but their EM beings talk to them. Omega actually just flat out sought out Geo. He knew what he was looking for.
It's important to know what you're looking for in a partner.
Well, he met the guy's father, and he promised
I
him.
know, I'm fucking with you.
Yeah, no, like, I'll be honest, if you want to see great character development, Omega Sis is amazing. Like, I actually love the... But no,
So, shifting away from the classic Blue Bomber,
Okay.
Let's see, what else? What else is a
No,
solid example of a good or...
actually, may I give a
bad
bad one? And, like, this is kind of a controversial thing.
Sure.
Mario.
It's not even controversial. It's just a matter of the game was never meant to
I know,
be a
no.
world building.
The world building,
franchise.
the world. I know, by definition, the world building of Mario is really bad because, like, it's supposed to be the same place.
It's not supposed to.
I know it's not supposed to. It's not consistent, though.
Yeah.
Though, from my understanding, Odyssey's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Odyssey is amazing because it actually tried.
It tried, yeah.
There's a ton of things you ought to see. You see.
God damn it! But no, I think my issue with the Mario one is just the consistency thing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like, for example, I'm gonna butcher it, Sarasasa Land, where Daisy is.
Sarasaland.
Sarasaland, because that's a far-off region, or the other world, or space.
Space.
The
Oh,
only
what's
place
up, dude?
untainted by capitalism.
Space.
I think we
You know
just
what?
upset my dog. She just
Yeah,
went.
but no. I can actually give a good example of Mario with world building. Paper Mario.
Well, the thing with the Paper Mario franchise is an RPG.
It needs to be, but like, Paper Mario.
And then Sticker Star.
Oh, we don't talk about Sticker Star. So
We talk
Sticker
about
Star.
Sticker Star's bad. Though
Puts finger on nose.
funny thing. Okay, I want to talk about this real quick. The Chugga Conroy has a video. Well, there's a video out of context of Chuck Conroy saying he liked Sticker Star. The thing is, that was after they received, if I remember correctly.
No. See, it was a bet.
It was a bet,
It was a bet that he inevitably lost.
so he had to say that stuff. So
See, there are some good parts to Sticker Star.
he's even admit there's good parts to it, but like overall,
Overall, it's not. It doesn't belong in.
just because you put a couple chocolate chips in a raisin cookie doesn't mean it's not a raisin cookie.
Yeah.
That's a very fair analogy.
You know what? Can we put that in the quote book?
Send it to me.
Hang
Send
on.
it to me, and I will log it.
I'm already on it.
I've got my quote book page.
Oh, you got it.
You got you. Let's see what else.
So I will say I currently loved some of the quotes I've said to you, Dylan, for the quote book.
They've been good. They've been good.
Yeah, no, they've all been for, like, those were all for the first session.
Jesus Christ.
But no, I will say actually. Okay, and this is the thing in particular I'm going to have to clarify. I'm going to talk about Kingdom Hearts with world building, but I'm going to say this is excluding the Disney worlds in particular, because that's not really anything to Square Enix. That's more so to Disney themselves.
Okay.
The exception being Disney Castle. Because that
Yeah,
one was sort of
that's literally named after them.
that was no. The exception is the Disney Castle world was designed by Square Enix.
Oh.
Because
right.
yeah, but I'll say the world building for Kingdom Hearts in terms of like they set the rules in particular when it came to Sora's first few outings, because the rules were never clarified to Sora himself. He was never given the rules. He always just ran around willy-nilly. But when we start getting to Ven, Terra, and Aqua, and when Yin-Sid shows up and starts slapping Sora like there are rules to this shit.
There are no rules.
If you ask Sora in Kingdom Hearts 3, he'll still say there are no rules. I mean,
Even though Donald is literally smacking him. His
So,
stat.
you know what? I kind of want to talk about this. There's a shot I think you see. There's a scene in the Monsters Inc. world for KH3 involving Sully. It is the best.
Oh,
See, I think the best way to put this scene is how the entire community has called this scene. It is known as Yeetus Vanitas.
Yeetus Vanitas.
Yeets
Yes.
Vanitas. It's the best.
That is impressive.
No, see, you don't understand, Dylan. There's no other way to describe it. See, Sully, big floofball that he is still a very scary monster.
Yeah.
He grabs Vanitas.
No, he didn't just grab Vanitas. See, Vanitas was trying to essentially break Sora
Because he needs Ven.
because he was trying to get to Ventus, who.
Now,
Let's
when
not
you
get
say
into.
break, do you mean physically or emotional?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, then.
because he was about to stab Sora right in the chest with his Keyblade.
Yeah.
Well, crap.
Yeah. But anyway, so Sully, while Donald and Goofy are doing their best to protect Sora and failing miserably as always.
Mhm.
Especially to one of the. Oh, crap. At that point, Vanitas is also one of the 13. He's incredibly powerful.
Go on.
Anyway, regardless, still failed. Sully gets all sneaky. He passes that. He rolls a nat 20 on his stealth check.
Sneak 100.
Gets behind Vanitas without him noticing. Just does a very good roar. Surprises Vanitas, who is the embodiment of negative emotions.
I don't think he's afraid. I think he's just caught off guard.
Yeah, but still, he caught off a very powerful, might as well have been Eldritch Horror kind
And
of character. Grabs him, yeets him through one of the doors, picks up that door, yeets it through another, picks up that door, yeets it through another, and then the final door gets shredded.
Randall gets tossed back into the swamp, and the only response is, Mom, the gator's back. Get the shovel.
of course.
Monsters
Because yeah,
Inc.
they brought Randall back. for the
Monsters
Monsters
Inc. 3. Randall fucking dies.
I can't believe it. Randall's fucking.
Have we?
Monsters Inc. 3. We found the shotgun.
But no. I'll say, good little world building on Nomura's part. On Monsters Inc., a world always related to emotions, in particular fear in that factory.
Yeah,
Works very well, especially when they start using the Unversed for the world.
because the Unversed are going into people's homes and scaring them.
Creating more Unversed.
Yeah.
Now, if they just use the generic Heartless there... Actually, you know what? I kind of want to talk about this. Good world building. The Big Hero 6 world.
Oh, yeah. No, see, the Big Hero 6 world's just great for character building more than world building. I'd
Well,
say.
true. They don't really need to build... if we're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts in any regard with building, it's going to be related to the character building aspect of world building.
Yeah.
Because with most worlds, with the exception of the Square Enix exclusive ones, they're all Disney's properties, so they don't really need to do much there.
True.
Yeah. However, in regards to the Big Hero 6 world, they were actually given a lot of freedom.
They didn't have to obey the series. It takes place
Well,
post
It takes place after
Big Hero 6.
the original movie. And it could also take place after the series. Considering what you do during the game.
True.
Dylan, have you seen Big Hero 6?
I've seen the film, yes.
Well, let me put into perspective exactly what great moment you get to perform in Big Hero 6's world.
You learn how to
Almost.
fist bump.
You saved the marshmallow.
Yay! You saved the marshmallow.
Yeah, no. See, here's what happens. The old body got found by somebody else who was traveling the void.
Who shall not be named, as we will keep from spoiling the Secret 13 members.
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides Vanitas.
Well, Phineas we knew was going to be a 13.
Well, Yeetus Vanitas, so
Yeetus
fair
Vanitas.
enough.
Yeetus Vanitas. Yeet the Vanitas. Anyway, yeah, they they brought back the marshmallow husk, filled it with dark bugs, which
Of
might
course
as
they
well,
did.
which might as well have been the blocks from Recoded.
They were the
All I'm-
recoded blocks turned into the
All I'm
bugs
hearing is
from
they're creating a
Real
scientifically advanced Oogie Boogie.
kinda.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Regardless, so you end up fighting the old Baymax body.
Mm-hmm.
You purge the dark bugs from the Baymax body, and
Hero crushes
Hero
the chip.
crushes the old chip.
No, the
which
new
was-
chip.
No, it
Oh,
was
no,
the
it's his original
chip.
chip.
It was the chip that had the fighting.
Yeah, I
program
know.
in it.
It's
Oh,
the,
okay.
it's the second original chip he built.
Yeah, which still had Baymax data in it.
So
Go
he
on.
crushed it. That he copied Tadashi's program, and we now have 2 Baymaxes.
Yay!
It is
Yes,
Sora
there-
wants one.
Sora wanted to take one of the Baymaxes with him. And he was like, no, Baymax is my friend.
He's like, but
But you already have one.
Could you imagine Baymax fighting Heartless? On
Yes.
a scale of 1 to
yes, actually,
Well, yes, because he does fight Heartless.
he's
alongside
the ally
Sora.
for the world.
He is the token party member.
Well, the first thing that I think of when I think of Baymax fighting Heartless is just the marshmallow form of him
You know what?
putting his finger up to a giant off-screen Heartless saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, and then just getting beaten.
So can I talk about really quick? Actually, Kingdom Hearts 3. One little attention to detail. This is more so an appreciation of continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tangled world is just flat out the original Tangled movie.
Yep.
And
That's cool.
Dylan, are you aware of how that movie ends?
Yes.
So, the thing is, your partners for the world are Flynn and Rapunzel.
I should hope so.
The thing is,
Aw.
she
Kind of
fights.
disappointed Max isn't.
She fights using her hair.
Hell yeah.
It's the. I'm waiting to see if we can figure out what the issue is. How does the movie
it
end?
Is the movie. It is the movie's.
Yeah, you said it is the movie.
How
so-
did her arc end in that movie?
Yes, what I'm trying to clarify is, are you saying this takes place after the movie?
No,
or
no, it's the original movie.
Okay.
It is the original movie.
I know how the movie ends, so yeah.
So yeah,
When right before
Well,
you
no.
go into,
because she loses her hair.
if you go back to the world, you can only have Flynn in your party. You can never have Rapunzel in your team again.
Oh shit.
'Cause-
That is
Yeah.
She cut her
really
hair.
good.
To the point where once you go into the town, it gives you all of Rapunzel's items. So any potions or
Gives you
anything you
all
gave
her
her,
equipment
it's all
that she
put
had.
over back to Sora.
Yep. She is not automatically dequipped. So it's not one of those token RPG moments where, oh, you have this one-time party member that you can equip equipment to. Oh, guess what? All that equipment's gone for the rest of the game.
I see you had
Spider.
an incredibly good chest plate and it's gone.
Spider X command mission. Long story, but during that, one thing I will say really quick, I'm gonna bring this up. Least favorite world in that game is Pirates of the
Frozen
Caribbean.
world.
No, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Really?
I don't like the Frozen world, but that's mostly because I don't like Frozen. I
The
don't.
Frozen world looked creative.
Oh, it looks great. I love the
It still
environment.
looks You know what the most impressive thing about the Frozen world is?
What?
They had almost no assets to work with.
That was all
They
built
had
from
to do-
scratch.
They had to redo all of that from scratch.
Including recreating the entirety of Let It Go, which I'll say I will give them props.
They did
Granted,
a hell of a good job.
granted, I will say when they announced for Kingdom Hearts 3 that they got the original voice actors for Anna, Elsa, and I cannot remember his last name, the other guy,
Christoph.
Kristoff.
Kristoff.
They got their actual voice actors. They were like,
Oh wait, I'm sorry, it's not Christoph. Sven.
Sven.
Sven, yeah. They got. I'm like, okay, you got the official voice actors. You're going to have a singing moment, and I won't hate you for it because I don't blame you.
You're gonna use
The best one was, if I'm correct or wrong here, isn't it Flynn's actor, Sean?
Yes. Okay. Let me.
Yeah, go
please.
this one.
So Flynn's voice
Okay.
actor must have gotten 100 perception roll.
He also must have had a heart attack.
Because
he specifically did the Frozen role.
Not Frozen, Tangled.
Sorry, went for the role in Tangled because he, in his brilliant insight check, figured out, okay, this has potential to be a Disney world in Kingdom Hearts. And I love Kingdom Hearts. I'm going for this.
That
And
is
he
awesome.
Succeeded.
To
in
the
that.
point, I'm pretty sure he like cornered Nomura. Was like, I'm in it.
I don't think it was like that.
But no, I'll leave that as headcanon. But
I think you mean nose cannon.
haha. But no, the
Because they can't get the nose right.
even funnier.
They can never get the
So
nose right.
if I remember correctly, it was Kanye West. One of his songs. A lot of people accused him of plagiarizing because if you listen in the background of one of his raps,
You can hear bits of
Simple and Clean, he flat out just ripped Simple and Clean.
Well,
thing
shit.
is,
It was the sample track, which is royalty free.
yeah.
So he didn't break any laws, but it's like, hey, you still Simple and Clean though. Even more so,
Yeah.
apparently, Skrillex also rolled a Nat 20 somewhere because he's a big Kingdom Hearts fan,
Oh yeah.
and he got commissioned to do help with Face My
Okay.
Fears.
Yeah. He's very proud of that.
He better be. He like uploaded like 3 videos for it.
Yeah.
One of
Cool.
like, if we want to talk about a game with a great community, I honestly will give it to the Kingdom Hearts community. They are pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. What's another good example of world?
You know what?
And then the shippers get in.
Yeah, that ruins everything. You know what? Actually, that just reminds me. Good example of world building. Ruby Volume 1 to 3. Specifically when you include it with World of Remnant.
Oh, aside from just that, because that's really all we can say about World of Remnant without spoiling everything that is World of Remnant.
True.
I know that both of you have probably played the shit out of this game, considering how excited Sean was when I was starting to play it. So I'll just say my limited experience I've had with it thus far. Octopath Traveler.
I actually haven't played it.
Really?
He hasn't. He hasn't.
Oh.
But I've told him
He's
some
told me enough.
details about it.
It's one of those things
so-
I just don't have the money to get it.
Fair enough. Well, suffice to say that in the limited amount of Octopath that I've played, I've only garnered 4. I've got a full party so far, but it's got a great way of seamlessly building the world on a mechanical level to work with how these characters would narratively go about doing their journeys. So,
Here's what I like to describe Octopath Traveler as. You know how Final Fantasy was based off of Dungeons and Dragons?
mm-hmm.
Octopath Traveler could definitely work as a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
That's what I was
actually-
thinking.
You know,
It's one of the best kinds of Dungeons and Dragons campaign that builds upon the characters but has its own plot.
Yeah.
Deep rooted behind everything.
so
Yeah, that's the thing. Without really going too deep into it, suffice to say, I don't feel like I'm grinding when I have to fight mobs. I feel like these characters need to get stronger. I'm not leveling their stats. I'm making it so that they get better skills, so that they can actually stand the threats that are coming. It doesn't feel like,
Yes.
I'm behind the curve or ahead of the curve. It's harder to determine.
That's what I especially like about the JP system in Octopath.
Oh, hell yeah.
may I?
Where opposed to it just being how you level up a job class, it's you pick the skills from a job class, and that
Go on,
builds
Steve.
up.
That
over
that
time.
just sounds like the freelancer.
Sort of.
Sort of.
But no, kind of just because we're approaching that time, we're in the wrap up. We're in the end game, boys.
We're in the end game, boys.
But let's say like sort of wrapping thoughts. I think what we could determine from the things we talk about, good examples and bad examples, a good way to world build is you need to be able to do sort of a combination of showing and telling. If you do too much telling through notes and everything, it doesn't make it feel alive.
Fallout 76.
Like Fallout, my brother just said Fallout 76.
Yeah, entirely fair.
Entirely. But then you also gotta do a bit of showing. An example of a good blend is Dark Souls, where you see it through the world itself, but you also see it through the items and their descriptions. But but then also you got to make sure that with the world you've built, you got to make sure you don't break rules. For example, again with Skyrim, where it's like the magic is this common thing. Why do none of the prisons take into account magic? Then there's
well, they don't want to be rude. They've already taken these people and thrown them into prison cells. They don't want to take away their only means of self-defense. What would you do?
Well, you say that, and yet there's a quest line where you actually have to get thrown in jail, and one of the first parts upon getting into jail is get a shiv.
Yep.
So, yeah. But
good times.
Another thing is try to work with games in particular, try to work like HUD and stuff. If it's possible, try to work it into the mechanics of the game. For example, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, but try not to be too. Try to have a balance in what is breaking the fourth wall and what is not.
Yeah. The only person that I've ever seen walk the fine line of breaking the fourth wall and being too abrasive about it is probably Deadpool.
Deadpool. I mean, Sunset walks that line.
Sunset Overdrive breaks the fourth wall all the fucking time.
Yeah, but the reason it works in Sunset Overdrive is also down to its.
There is the DLC.
I haven't played any of the DLC except for Rise of the Fall or whatever the frig of the Machines.
Rise of the Machines breaks the fourth wall tremendously.
Yeah, because the final boss is the guy who used to host Sunset TV back when it was a thing. But the thing is with Sunset Overdrive that makes it work though is at the end of the day, Insomniac set out to make a game that is a meta game that is entirely based on its comedy rather than its actual. Well, it's got a good storytelling still, but it's more.
If I may,
go.
Nothing beats that scene where Raiden, who's freaking the fuck out because of his own existence being coming into question. Nothing beats Snake just telling him entirely seriously, "If you need ammo, you can have some of mine. What about you?" Points to the headband on his head. "Infinite ammo." Nothing against Snake, but what the fuck, man?
Colonel,
Don't tell that to somebody who's literally having a mental breakdown right in front of you.
Infinite ammo.
And he just says it so confidently too.
To quote it, Colonel, I'm trying to sneak around.
No.
I'm trying to get around, but I'm dummy thick, and the clap of my ass keeps eluding my hearts.
But actually, I will say, I don't have enough experience with the Metal Gear games to give its thing with world building, though. I know Kojima walks a very fine line
between
reality
and parody.
No, yeah, especially from my understanding in 5. 5 gets weird. I only played a little bit of 5, and I was like, "Why is this horse immortal? Why
don't ask questions you aren't ready for the answers to?
Why is this half-naked woman a ghost?
Don't ask questions you aren't ready for the answers to.
But she lives on my face.
Don't
Steve,
ask. Say it with me now.
Don't
ask questions you aren't ready for the answers.
No. All you respond is you've said too much, heresy, and then exterminatus.
Except I don't understand a word.
Okay, exterminatus is a Warhammer 40k thing where you nuke a planet in absolute fire.
Yay!
All to stop the spread of chaos. I mean, granted, if you ever see Slanesh, you completely agree with the decision.
Any hoozle boozle. I take it we're in the wrap-up phase now.
Yeah, we're in the wrap-up phase, though. Main thing is, again, like I said, set rules with your worlds, don't break them.
Yeah.
Like, don't... But also, do some stuff to make it feel alive, because I think we can agree the big thing in 76 is it doesn't feel alive. It feels dead despite all the players being scattered.
Here's a question for you guys that I think I'll throw your way.
Okay.
Would you say... I've got a couple rules that I've built for myself as a writer to make things more interesting.
Okay.
So I wanted to challenge myself to really actually create more interesting stuff. So for world building, I've built these 3 rules. Number 1, if you want to bring someone back to life, you have to be willing to give up somebody else's or your own. Is that reasonable?
I would
Equivalent
say
exchange.
equivalent exchange. Yeah, I would say
The
keep
world
it.
runs off the law of
Yeah.
equivalent exchange.
It's just a
Not-
little boom stream ends because of Edward Elric.
And okay. Number 2, just because I know I'm not fucking capable of handling this, at least not at my current
No time travel.
narrative capability. Yes, no time travel.
But you see, it's when you go back to the past and then everything changes in the
Be
future.
very-
Why does everything
be
smell
ve-
like copper?
Be very, very careful with time travel.
Yeah.
Very few
you
things
don't-
handle time
If
travel
you
well.
if you don't have set rules in place, or if you don't have the logic set up right, it can poke
It can ru-
tremendous black holes in
It could destroy an entire story. Two things I've seen that have good rules of time travel is Kingdom Hearts and Star Trek.
Steins Gate.
Haven't seen
Steins
Steins Gate, so I can't say.
You need to.
Was it
you
that
need-
they fucked up everything because of a toaster?
And
On that note, continue.
and the last rule is no one's immortal.
That should just be general rule of writing anything, especially your antagonist, Ruby.
No, I don't mean, oh, you're really good at fighting. I mean,
No.
no one is immortal.
No, I agree. I agree. Like, I'm not talking about, like, even if you're really good at fighting, you could still be killed. I'm talking about, like, for example, with Dragon Ball The Dead Zone with Garlic Jr., that should never have been a thing. Like,
Oh, God, no.
but they still handled it somewhat better than Ruby has.
See, here's what I say about immortal characters. They could exist, but they should have almost no fucks to give about the real world.
They also, if you're going to make a
rest of
character
the
immortal, you gotta make it so they have a way to be defeated still. For example, with a Lich is nearly immortal, but they have their phylacteries.
Suffice to say, knowing that, all right, short story, real easy. Someone tried to become immortal a long ass time ago. He asked a god of knowledge, how do I become immortal? God said you can't. He then asked, how can I live for as long as humanly possible? What do I have to do to extend my lifeline to as long as it actually can be done? God gave him a recipe for a simple apple. And if you eat that apple once a day, you can live for thousands of years.
So
This will not toughen you. This will not make it so you cannot be killed. It will simply extend your natural lifeline.
So what you're talking about is you're not talking about immortality. You're talking about infinite life there.
Yeah, he's really the closest thing to immortal that's possible.
Yeah.
Not even the gods
You
are
know,
immortal.
even long life isn't a problem. It's the immortality aspect is where things get to be a problem. Like, for example, I've said very openly, I do not like how they handled Salem and Ruby. I do not think she should have been immortal.
Reasonable.
Because when you make a character immortal, and it's your...
There's a difference between living forever and being truly unkillable.
With Ruby, for example, with Salem, it's now...
Nobody should be unkillable.
Now that we know Salem is completely unkillable, we know that the only two ways she's going to go down is either they're going to pull some McGovern bullshit with the relics, or it's going to be Ruby's going to freeze her. And both are equally infuriating.
Fair enough.
Because that was the thing about the original first 3 volumes of Ruby. It was unpredictable. We didn't see how any of that was going to go down. In particular, with some... they've given us too much information now that we can just predict the endgame.
We went from 0 to 100, and now we wish we were back at 0.
Oh god, I wish we were back at 0. I have not... But yeah,
All right, so, okay.
On that note,
I feel like, good talk, everyone.
good talk. If everyone enjoyed Writer's Corner, we will be compiling a playlist as we go. The first one here on the channel is going to be world building. We are going to try to do this at least once a month. And we
Give it a
will
try.
normally not have an idea beforehand of what our topic is. We choose it as it comes up, like at the start of the month. Though the exception will be next month if I may propose the topic, because it's February. And that
Go on.
is, and we're going to go more into this when we start up the actual video, but how to properly write a romantic relationship in terms of anything. Because I feel like that's something that does need to be talked about, especially with the chaos that has happened in terms of Star Wars and Ruby.
That's less with them and more with their fan bases, but I see what you
But
mean.
you see what I mean. Star Wars, it kind of has to have a common.
All right.
But
All right, fair enough.
yeah.
Proper love stories. There's plenty more we can talk about aside.
Yeah,
from
but
just
that will be next month in honor of it being the month of Valentine's Day.
All right, fair enough.
All
right.
Fun fact: we actually were going to talk about making a Christmas movie, but none of us could get together before Christmas.
Our apologies.
Oh well.
We'll save that for 2020. Yeah, and we'll talk to everyone later.
All right.
Urbosa's Fury is ready.
And on that